Michael Lee has walked the path that so many property management entrepreneurs I meet are trying to follow. He left his corporate gig, bought a property management company, invested in technology and processes and scaled it, doubled it in size, increased its profitability, exited it to one of the bigger players, went in-house with one of the bigger players as a technology specialist, building technologies in-house, and now he's planning his next moves and he's betting huge on AI. We have a fascinating conversation about his journey, essentially like the echelons of profitability that happen as you scale, as you invest in technology, what he thinks AI is going to mean to it. We also go a little bit down the rabbit hole of like, what are future valuations going to be like? I got some hot takes on that, which he was able to pour some cold water and some lukewarm water and stoke some flames on in some of those. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation with my boy, Michael Lee. Welcome to the Property Management Frame Breakers podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez, and I am here to introduce you to the folks in the property management space that have broken the frame of what you may believe was possible. This podcast is presented by Vendoroo. It is your all-in-one AI solution for resolving your maintenance needs. Let's go. Listen, man, you had just joined Vendoroo, first meeting together. You started talking. I immediately hijacked the meeting. I was like, I need you on the podcast right now. Tell me your background. Tell me your story, right? Like the way that I understand is you were a tech guy that bought a property management company, grew it to a certain size, had an exit, joined one of the bigger players. That bigger player got acquired by an even bigger player. And now you're here. But I want to hear from your mouth the experience that you have had in the industry.
Yeah, so I've been in the product development world, tech development, and more precisely for roughly around 20 years. Started at Dell, worked at Intuit, and worked actually at Groupon during that hyper growth phase. I don't know if you remember that when everything was
I remember Groupon. Yeah.
selling bikini waxes, right?
Yeah.
Right here. So I was actually in Brazil when that hyper growth was happening. I was leading that Brazil team, but we can jump into that later about scaling a tech company. But at that point, especially after Groupon, working many, many hours here, I got burnt out. I wanted to really start, kind of pivot into different, what I thought was a much slower industry, right? A lot less complex or a lot stressful, right? And by chance, there's a property management company for sale up here in Seattle, Washington, right? I jumped on the first flight, came over, talked with the owner. She was an older lady, right? And so we sat down. I remember looking at her office, and it was just piles and piles of paper everywhere, right? File cabinets here. And I experienced a lease signing exercise with her where she had about a 30-page lease agreement. And she was going page by page with the new tenant, and both the tenant and I were both falling asleep at the at the explanation. And then I saw another tenant come in, and she only accepted checks, right? And so this is me coming from tech, really, really just getting actually excited.
Michael, what year is this?
This was, gosh, about 8 years ago. So do the math for me. Maybe
okay, so like 2017?
16, actually, 2016.
16. Wow. Okay, I thought you were talking about like 2005.
No, 2016, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
you have to realize that back then too, even this industry was doing, a lot of them, the mom and pop especially, was doing just like that, right? The concept of a SaaS property management platform really wasn't on their mind, nor did they want it, right? I mean, this is a clientele, like the persona is a bit skews towards the older crowd, right? They're kind of scared about technology. So this is where I kind of really got excited, and we went through the deal. I went there, of course, throughout all that paperwork, after scanning. Oh my God, that was another part, scanning all those files. So we scanned all those files, digitized it. I onboarded it with Appfolio, right? I went through that whole process, automated as much as possible. By automation, I was able to get more doors using the same exact employees, right? So I actually acquired another company and grew from 300 doors to 600 doors. This was
You bought it at 300 doors?
I bought it at 300 doors. Then I merged with another company. We were at about 600 plus doors at that point to double my door count. It was at this point, what year was that? I can't remember. I don't want to lie to you, but this is one point several of these large tech property management companies started approaching me. At this point, I got to the point where, and we could talk about this, getting to scaling from 600 to your next milestone, which I would say is 1,000 doors, was very difficult, right?
What made it difficult?
You have to hire I had to hire another maintenance coordinator and yet another property manager, right?
Mm.
And I hate loans, right? In order to do that, I have to invest capital to hire these two folks here. In the industry standard here, a typical property manager probably can handle 80 doors. I don't know who you talk with, but in my company, it was roughly around 80 doors. My goal with more automation was get to about 100 doors, and then eventually, and we'll talk about this, maybe some of the little more sophisticated technology, probably bump that up to 200 doors, but 80 doors with existing type of technology here with a maintenance coordinator here. But it was just a hurdle. It was like hitting a dead wall there. 600 doors here. And this is when I said, like I said, is when the national companies came over. And I ended up aligning very well with Poplar Homes.
Mhm.
They had this vision of really 100% pure tech interface here. They developed their own technology. They weren't relying on other property management systems like AppFolio Property or what have you. They developed their own systems. And they had this vision of actually having automations in place. We yet didn't talk about AI at that point here where a lot of the operational work could be handled not only by automation but offshore team so
Mhm.
that the property manager can do what she or he does best, which is interfacing with the owners and the tenants rather than spending time, writing leases and doing all the
Yep.
a very, very difficult operational work here. So we offshored that, and that was the premise of it. So I joined as their VP of product to lead that the strategy of the product here. And as we were going through this phase of acquiring more companies, we went through this phase of acquiring multiple mom and pop property management companies, roughly around 300 to 600 doors. We quickly realized how difficult it was to scale our operations. So one thing we didn't do, we failed to do, and this is I'm open to say that I'm not ashamed to say, but we had the same amount of people, right? We had the same process and same systems that supported roughly around 2,000 doors, and we went from 2,000 doors to about 15,000 doors in a span of 12 months. We
Oh wow.
acquired two or three companies every month. And I don't need to tell you that piling 10xing your platform almost without changing any of the below three items, it's not going to be a smooth process, right? And so obviously our churn rate went just hockey sticked up. And my role at the company pivoted from a VP of product to basically an operational role.
Mm.
Completely revamped their whole business model. And as I was there, this is where we were looking more into automation, obviously, reinventing our systems, operational systems, and also really trying to eventually get to our end goal of leveraging AI here. This is where AI started coming up a lot, at least for us, where we want to focus on a lot of this stuff here, right? To eventually build what we vision, kind of like this co-pilot for a property manager, right? So in essence, to help her, because if you realize a property manager is very busy about it doing a lot of different tasks. One property manager who handles around 100 doors typically has what, 1.5 tenants per door. Do the
Mhm.
math for me. What is that? 100, what is it? 300 tenants, right? So there's a lot of things going on. And so having this assistant, that was our vision, where now instead of 100 doors, you could probably scale up to 300 doors. But that was kind of where Vendoroo came about on the radar. But yeah, that's I think I talked a little bit too much, but
No, that was good,
that,
man.
I'll pause right there and just say that that's exactly my journey into how I got into kind of this really detailed prop tech world of property management. So
I want to dive into that, man. I want to, the first thing I want to get into, right? Like you basically mentioned to me a couple of things that have, or pinged for me for a while, and then some new things that are pinging for me. The first kind of like aha moment that I had, having come from JWB, is the idea that these bigger players tend to have developed their own kind of like custom things, right? Like JWB, for example, built on Salesforce, right? Like not necessarily a property management tool. You guys sounds like Poplar had these like their own softwares. You came on board at a moment when I think it feels like there's these like generations of property management that pair with these like context changes where they were first building on either no software at all or software for the masses. Then they started building on softwares made for property managers. And now, and that was a major boost, right? Like you just talked about this ability to, more than double your capacity with like about the same amount of people. And then now, AI is coming in and that represents this like next inflection point of being able to like doors per employee. Can you tell me a little bit of being through it and seeing that like inflection of like adding the software and now as a software guy adding doors per employee with this new AI revolution? How do you see that comparing? Do you see it as like similar? Do you see like this one as more, less?
Well, in the property manager history, if you follow it here,
Yeah.
so you see one of the biggest shifts in terms of profit margin. In general, a property management company back then, I don't know exact dates when this inflection point happened. If a top performing property management company profits about 25%. Okay, that's their typical profit. It jumped up to about 32, 33%. What happened? I mean, how can you make more profit? Increase your management fees? That didn't happen. Or lower your labor costs. That revolution, the offshoring is what happened, right? So that was a shift in that. And
Mm-hmm.
now to get to the next level here, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happens next is how do we, in my opinion, the next revolution is going to be AI. So who will help not replace the offshore team per se, but allow the offshore team to do more. Not only offshore, let's not to use the word offshore, just the team
The team. Yeah.
more with less, right? With the same amount of people, not less, not even less. Do more with the same amount of resources, right? And this is
Yeah.
where AI comes. I firmly believe that number will go from 30 to 33% to 40 to 50%, which is a
Mm.
game changer. An industry where you can net profit what? 50%, correct?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. So you're basically saying if the answer, if I'm hearing you correctly, the first revolution of SaaS and remote teammates that increased capacity for lower cost jumped a 25% profit margin by about 8%. That's maybe about a 30% jump in profit margin. And now you're saying that this revolution of AI could jump a 33% profit margin, 30% profit margin to 50%, which now represents like a 66% jump or about a 50 to 60% jump in profit.
100%. I mean, that might be even conservative in my opinion. But I mean, you have to realize an AI is an employee that doesn't sleep, never calls in sick,
Yeah.
right? Never makes mistakes once taught properly, right? And so, I mean, like I said, that might be conservative, but that's kind of where we were headed. We realized that, at least I realized that, during this operational overhaul of the company, and how did we get there and sustain the company as a whole
Mm-hmm.
with this massive operational inefficiency that needs humans to operate it, right? And at scale. Not only at scale, but nationally, that
Yeah.
has highly regulated rules and laws that differ from not only state to state, but county to county,
Yeah.
but from county to county to states to cities, right?
Yeah.
So with each different variable, when you scale a company, each additional variable exponentially increases the complexity of scaling, right? If
Yeah.
everything was equal, it's easy to scale here. Like I said, talking back to Groupon, tech, that was difficult to scale, obviously. But scaling from 0 to 15 million daily actives was a feat in and of itself. But I scaling a human intensive company, I would say was double as hard, right? Because the
Yeah.
variables changed, right? As things as we changed, it threw another wrench in, which broke the whole system down.
So that's a great insight. I'd never quantified. Like I had seen the generation shift. I
Mm.
had never quantified what the shift, what the carrot was for the shift, right?
Yeah.
Like what the size of the carrot, and now kind of like getting a real number for the size of the carrot. The other thing that I heard in that story is something that I'm now hearing a lot, right? And that I personally also have seen at JWB. The idea that once you get to a certain size in a certain market, growing organically gets exponentially more difficult. And when you look at these property management companies that have continued to grow and put up these big numbers, get past the 2,000, 4,000, 5,000, like get into that really, really big like enterprise business mark, they're growing through acquisition, not through organic growth. Talk to me about why there wasn't organic growth. Was it a shortcut through acquisition? Like, do you have a sense after you tried to grow organically that you should have gone through acquisition? Talk to me through that decision making process of
Growing organically, slow. So if you think about acquiring small other property management companies, you'll get hundreds
Mhm.
versus one at a time. I mean, just that plain and simple here. I mean, there's a lot of these, especially if they're backed by VCs or PEs, which want to pedal to the metal here and rapidly grow here. You can't grow 100, 200 doors per month, right? You need to grow hundreds, if not thousands doors per month here. So that, I think it's as simple as that. It's just speed.
Got it.
And the fact that organically trying to grow, contacted the owners one by one, yes, allows you to grow, but not at the speed as acquiring here, which is usually required by investors.
And then that's the next thing that you're really highlighting: speed and growth. When it comes to a person decision making intense process is super painful. Right. So my insight on this was I'm literally writing a newsletter on this week, which is one of the big reasons why I wanted to hop on and test these insights. But I'm driving back with one of my property management friends outside of the Grand Canyon. He's like, I can't get out of my head the idea that Warren Buffett says, don't scale things that are really, really hard to scale.
Mm.
And when I look at all the property management companies that are putting these big numbers up there, they're all scaling through acquisition, not organic growth. And what I hear when people scale through acquisition and not organic growth is a massive churn number. Because when you were trying to like go fast and integrate these things, like there's kind of like no option. Like it's like you either go fast to keep up with these people or they're going to buy it, or you go slow and it's really, really hard to scale. So he's like really questioning himself, like, is this really worth it? Is it really worth to try to be a 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, 30,000 door property management company based on your experience, man? Can you just kind of react to that?
Well, I mean, trying to think how to phrase this, what I've gone through, I agree in terms of that. Is it worth scaling out a company out here trying to grow, like become the next national level? Yes. In the presence that what I know, having gone through that, the answer is no. Meaning a property management company in of itself is a very inefficient model. As I said, there are so many factors in trying to run it efficiently in terms of at scale. Like I said, there's different laws and regulations. I don't know if you knew this too, but in what I've heard, the real estate industry is the second most litigious industry behind medical, right? So
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, a tenant stays in the house for a long time, anything can happen, right? So, but anything that requires intensive human capital or resources to scale out is not scalable, in my opinion here. And you'll get a lot of inefficiencies. And when you scale inefficient process, you just get more inefficiencies at exponential levels, which completely directly causes churn, right? And so once you scale out quickly, you're just churning out just as quick as well, unless you can contain and control this inefficiency. So it doesn't make sense, or is it? No, not with the current model of having to scale by hiring more folks to try to prop up this platform or operational system, right?
He said 40% churn. Like that's what he heard.
40%.
40%. Is
Okay,
that even feasible? Is that crazy?
without jumping into too much data, I'm not surprised.
Okay.
I'm not surprised. The industry standard, by the way, is roughly around 12%. This is all NARPM data, right?
Yeah.
And these
Yeah.
are mom and pop. Now at a nationwide, if you get scale that out and all the inefficiencies that is introduced by that, obviously that'll scale out the churn as well, right? I'm not surprised, right? If the average is 12 for a local mom and pop,
Yeah.
national at 40%, that's not, I'm not surprised.
That's a jaw-dropping thing, man. That's a jaw-dropping thing. Like to think that you are literally taking one step forward and almost a 50% step back, right? Like that's really, really crazy. Then talk to me about where you at the 300 door mark. So you bought it at 300. What did work for you, man? Like what were the somebody that's listening to us right now? I'm not trying to be like doom and gloom on them. Like what is before we even get to the AI discussion, before we get into like the rest of that stuff, but like at 300 doors to 600 doors, you did implement some tech. Talk to me about like things that a property manager that is in that realm, that is what we call, that's what we call a established property manager, right? Like we call them emerging up to like 200, 300, 300 to 1,000. You're like pretty well established. That's a pretty good business to run, or at that size, is it still like painful to run without growing? Like, is there like a space to just like be happy there?
That's why most people stay there, because you're happy. I mean,
Yeah.
with my numbers, I'm proud to say I was profiting about 24%, 25%, which is, from the market, that's the top, one of the top property, in terms of, so with just simply because I didn't have to hire more people to get more doors through squeezing every single resource with technology here, right? And at that point, you make decent money as an owner operator here. So, but to get to the next level, would involve me hiring another maintenance coordinator, another property manager, and this would be almost a very big step backwards in terms of my cash flow, right? Until I get to that 1,000 doors.
Yeah.
So this is why you see a lot of property managers stay at the either 300 or 600 doors. I don't have the data, but I think I heard that a lot of that's why a lot of these local property management businesses are right around that mark there, and it takes a lot more human resources to scale to that 1,000 door mark here.
What is the human resource? Is it like is there now, you said one more maintenance coordinator, one more property manager, but how many did you have already at 600? Like, is it that it's one more, or is it that now there becomes like a layer where there's like a manager of property managers and maintenance coordinators that becomes a managing the manager thing that's hard?
Well, we weren't at that level. I don't know what number of doors you would need a manager, but my maintenance coordinator could handle it right around. I only had one, and she could handle 600 doors. But the problem was she was starting to make mistakes. So that was my indicator that this is her limit in terms of how many she could handle, right? So this is, if I were to grow another door, I didn't want to drop any more work orders. Drop work orders means churn, right? In that sense, right? So eventually churn if you don't handle it correctly quickly here. But yeah, so that was my indication that I needed to hire if I wanted to grow past 600. Like I said, I knew the capacity of my property manager, which was each one could handle roughly around 100 doors, right? So I had about 600 doors, right? Six
Mhm.
property managers and one
Mhm.
maintenance coordinator. And we were all pretty much about, 80, 90% capacity. I just did not have the capacity to get more doors again without hiring another maintenance coordinator. And consequently, I needed another property manager to take on those doors. But until you get to that market where you get that return on investment on those two new hires, you're
Mhm.
negative cash flow. You're paying out of your pocket, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want it because I was happy, right? I was happy there.
If you're following along, I believe Michael just said that not only will AI increase your profitability significantly, like more so than automation and the first wave of technology did, it will also reduce the pain of growth to not have that monster churn number on the back end of it. And if you want to invest in the number one AI first solution in property management right now for the hardest part of property management to scale, aka maintenance, you got to give Vendoroo a shot. It's no coincidence that Michael has had this lived experience and has decided to join our team because he sees the future here and he sees the value creation. So if all this stuff is ringing true to you, you haven't given Vendoroo a shot, go to vendoroo.ai and see what it's capable of, right? Like if you are looking to grow without the typical pain of growth, if you're looking to build a business that you're really going to love running and not being held hostage by maintenance, you got to invest in an AI first solution for this stuff. And that, my friend, is Vendoroo. See you at vendoroo.ai. Enjoy the rest of the show. So what's the, like currently right now, you don't have to say what you sold at, but like what's kind of like, how do people value property management companies like these
Well,
days? Is it like a 3x EBITDA, 6x EBITDA, kind of like rough figures?
I can only speak for me. I won't give you the exact number. I'll give you a range.
Yeah.
So maybe let's say high twos, low threes of growth top line.
High 2 or 3x top line. Okay, got it. Of top line revenue.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Got it. All right. So that's a fair valuation. And that's the type of money if I'm, like I feel like there's like when I think of exits, there's kind of like the car changer, there's the house changer, there's the life changer. That sounds like a significant house changer, but you're still gonna have to work, right? Like this isn't like so you went in house. Tell me more.
In terms of, was this life-altering money that I made from this? Is that kind of where I could retire? Is that what you're asking, or?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like it
Oh,
sounds like that's like good enough to like upgrade your living standard, but you're not going to be able to retire and just like
no,
pop
no, no.
shots. Like you have to have a next plan when you have an exit like that, right?
Right, and my next plan was part of the condition was to become the VP of product here, right? So it's literally
Cool.
continuing on and continuing my journey instead of at that point my passion for tech got reignited again, right? And so
Yeah.
so that's why rather than dealing with leaky toilets, now I'm bugs and codes. So that was my passion at that point. Yeah.
Got it. So you went all in now back into tech. Now give me the tech landscape that you see and that you've seen, right? Like before, give me your evaluation of the tech landscape, right? Like you're a guy that has operated, you're a tech guy, you've gone back into tech,
Yeah.
and now you're looking at the landscape based on existing providers, stuff you can build yourself, and now AI, right? Is that kind of accurate?
Yeah, yeah. So when I owned my own company, the number of property or prop tech for property managers was very limited. It was literally probably a portfolio property where what have you, building them at that point. But quickly, I started seeing a lot of these folks pop up here, right?
Yeah.
There's Simple, there's Property Melda, but it is so fragmented, right?
Mhm.
And I think this is well, not think, but I know that that's the reason we wanted to build our own stack. So to have better control of the quality of the process of the operations, let it integrate with each other better, right? I personally had to do a lot of hacky stuff to integrate. I think Apple is well known back then. They didn't even have any APIs whatsoever. You couldn't pay for it. So
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of hacky way to integrate it with it, right? So it meant hard for me to use the tech I wanted to do. And so with Poplar Homes, we built it from scratch in essence, right?
Mhm.
And so a lot of these existing companies I know are their experiences pain of having this fragmented tech space or tech stack, right? And
Mhm.
how to efficiently integrate and have each systems talk to each other efficiently. So I'm seeing that trend where it just becomes more and more fragmented. And so, but at Poplar Homes, we knew that we could scale properly in terms of technology using that model here. So this is why we developed our own.
Got it. So it's like the smaller guy, right? Below enterprise level that can develop their own software. Smaller guys in a or lady obviously is in a place where you have more and more tools, but they're almost like becoming harder to use together. And then the enterprise person is like and then the other option is just like go out and build your own, which I think I'm starting to hear, right? Like I'm hearing people out there doing this and building their own agents even and all this type of stuff, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, there are companies out there, but and you have to remember the average property manager owner, has to deal with, five or six different tools now, and they don't necessarily have the IT knowledge, right? So to integrate the two. So I mean, you talk to all these guys now there or gals that they're just tired of having yet another platform to have to deal with, right? A Yap, right? So yeah, it's just being a tech guy, I always hope that these industry leaders would open up their platform and kind of serve the community better, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime
Why
soon.
not? Why isn't it happening?
They want to protect the data. The gold mine, Pablo, of all this is that data. I mean, there's a lot of data in that, and you have 15,000 doors. That's what, 30,000 tenants, 5,000 owners. That's a lot of data, right?
Data that does what? Why is that data so valuable? Talk to me like I don't understand this stuff because honestly, I don't.
There's a lot you can monetize on it, right? I mean, this is typical. Why does Google want your data, right?
Hmm.
Why does
But
Facebook?
Google says advertising, right? So like I get that, but like why like what is the value in that data?
So there's a potentials here. There's, for example, like one thing that there was an aha moment for me. You as a renter, I
Hmm.
know your credit score. I know how much you make. I know how many children you have. When your lease is about to expire, who do you think that's valuable to? That information.
Everybody.
Everybody, and
Yeah,
especially the mortgage industry or the real estate sales. There's this one lady that basically, I literally told her, look, she called me up and said, hey, Mike, we're having a baby. That was going to be her third kid. They were in a three-bedroom house. And she
yeah.
said, I need a four-bedroom house. I go, well, I looked online. I go, well, the amount you pay, you could, purchase this house. This is exact for the mortgage. So I referred her and got a nice little referral fee. But then I was thinking, how can I monetize it? How could I automate this, right?
Yeah.
So anticipate, right, when this happens, some key indicators of when a person is likely to end their lease and probably purchase, right? Some of the stuff that my tech brain was kind of using this data, how can we leverage it to monetize it as well? But yeah, that's a lot of valuable data, and people are very, especially me, we're very excited to leverage.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So let me take like a hard kind of like I want all right. So now we're talking about the software piece. What do you see? I want to talk more about kind of like the business model and stuff like that, but like why Vendoroo? Were you dead set on like why'd you were you dead set on jumping into the AI revolution? Were you dead set on just like I don't really want to work for an operator because it just is too hard? Were you just like, dude, those Vendoroo guys are super awesome and Pablo's ads are hilarious? Like what what is that? Like what
It
are
is hilarious, right? And thoroughly enjoyed watching them.
nice.
And I'm happy to be part of this. I'm
I
excited
appreciate it,
actually.
man. I appreciate
But,
it. Yeah, yeah. But be
but
honest.
but I mean, no, I mean this, I've gone through the internet revolution. Back then, I didn't understand the impact of it. I mean, this, I don't know, want to reveal my age. Okay, I will reveal my age. I was in college when I saw my first web browser. And back then, this is at UIUC, where Mark Andreessen, who invented Netscape,
Yep.
he had his prototype. It's called Mosaic. He made
Mhm.
all the UIUC. Well, the labs had him on. I'm like, and it showed. I remember the first image. It was a picture of a flower. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's it? What is this? And so I said, this is never gonna last. And so that one, obviously, I missed that point there, right? And then this one is yet another, obviously the mobile revolution is what I've gone through, the smartphone, and then this
Mhm.
one, the AI revolution here. I think we all know, this is where the hockey puck is going towards, and
Yeah.
those who don't skate towards it are going to be left behind. The owners who go to that puck are going to start profiting 50, 60%. You and your top performer before at 20% is not going to compare. Now, you imagine how are you going to compete against these guys here, right? Who could
Yeah.
potentially now lower their rates and now get more market share here. So, I mean, this is something that I think can't be as more clear as day of where
Yeah.
this industry needs to head to or will head to. I mean,
Yeah.
especially back to the point where an industry relies on human input to make it work, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know an industry that is so ripe to be disrupted as much as the property management industry via.
So what I'm hearing from you is essentially I see a future that is worse than the past as far as wait, like the distribution of amount of people that are going to be winning, the quality of, I see you seeing like a bunch of headwinds.
Mhm.
I see you thinking to yourself, well, I have this other skill set that I can actually jump on the biggest wave ever. So instead of like facing headwinds, I'm gonna go just surf this like
100%.
cowabunga wave.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I'm sitting there paddling my paddleboard way ahead of the wave, gonna gonna catch on in it. I tell you, since joining Vendoroo, it's been nothing but a wild, crazy ride here. And it literally what I imagined AI could do was far surpassed when I'm watching these demos here. It is just mind blowing what it can do, and it's I can't imagine in not 10 years. We're just maybe even the next year or two
Mhm.
what the possibilities of it here. And like I said, it's iterating and improving so quickly here that I mean companies need to jump on board as quick as possible or be left down even quicker than the internet revolution. It's just not scaringly fast, but I mean it's just amazingly quick. Yeah.
I think it's scary fast, man. Like when I do the math, right? And I'm like, okay, 20 years ago, I own a business and I'm debating whether or not it's 2005. I'm debating whether or not, hey, should I run this yellow page ad? Like I have a small business. I'm like, do I really need a website? Right? Like Facebook doesn't exist, smartphones don't exist. And I think about the idea that we're here based on Moore's law of like doubling computing power every 2 years, compounded over 20 years, 2005 to now. Insane. And then I think that AI is doubling every 6 months, and that's a 4x rate of change of that. And the idea that like 2030 is going to be as different to 2025 as 2025 is to 2005, I
Yeah.
find terrifying.
Yeah. Well, actually, now that you put it that way, yeah, I'm scared too. So,
I mean, just like
yeah.
that to me, that visual is the thing that I can't get off of that now has me just like, I'm not a product guy like Michael, so I can't go out and like build the next thing, but I just feel fortunate to be like I want to run this past you. You painted a picture where there's going to be headwinds to this thing and like continuous stratification of wealth at the top versus the rest of the field, right? Like right now it's been really well stratified. Like the whole field is really really well stratified. Not a lot of folks at the top. The folks at the top aren't doing that great. But if we are thinking that AI is now going to like create that lever where it really can go, there really can be a national player because now this context and this decision making, we're going to decouple from the human capacity as the limiting factor. Then what I imagine is going to happen is going to happen in every category, and that's there's going to be like one really big winner, maybe two other people making money, everyone else sucks shit, and then there's going to be like the ground up swell of like there'll be smaller people like at the bottom that might look more like an Airbnb model than like an actual hotelier when it comes to property management. Like, is that how does that how do, I mean, how does that ring a bell to you? Like, does
Because
that,
we've gone through this, right? I mean, look
yeah,
what happened to Amazon and retail. We saw this happen before. I
yeah,
mean, look, this history has already shown this. So
yeah,
I don't know how to make it more clear to everyone else that this is going to happen. What are you going
yeah,
to do about it? That type of situation. We it's on repeat,
yeah.
And now, I mean, it's clear as days to me. And I think hopefully by this podcast we can, really convince others to do it here. And this industry in of itself has been notoriously very slow to adapt technology here. So, but yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right here. So it's just, yeah,
So property managers can adapt to technology, they can get AI, they can become way more profitable right now. That still doesn't solve for me the idea that if it's really going to get consolidated at the top and there's really just going to be like one big gorilla that's like buying things or less, then this like high twos to low 3x valuation can dramatically drop, right? Like this was what I was trying to like explain to you earlier of like, are we even building, like, let's say best case scenario right now, we're getting like a 3x top end revenue valuation. I can build a $2 million business. I can make like 6 million bucks, like, and get there. What if I build a $2 million business and what they offer me is $2.5 million or like 4 million bucks? Like, should I really be building to that point? And I keep coming back to the idea that if I was a property manager, I would become as efficient as possible, stack as much cash as possible, and use my property management company to acquire properties for myself. Like some people are gonna be able to like hit it and scale and like and somebody's gonna win this tournament. Go for it. But like if I was to really try to risk mitigate, I would build a company that I would use the machine that I have not to for like to create some kind of like mythical valuation that I may or may not reach at pain, but to like build a real estate portfolio. Like go acquire 40, 50 properties and you're set.
100%. The advantage of being a little bit more that level here, but not nationally. If you want to stay, if I were to redo it again, is to your
Yeah.
point, having gone through nationally, I'd rather be much more hyper localized, right? Let's acquire, to your point, a couple of property management, get a couple thousand doors, and be hyper local and
Yeah.
use technology to run the operations and leverage my people to do what they do best, which is interface with, provide the best customer service in the world, right? So that's how I compete against the big boys,
Yeah.
right? And so that's kind of where I would leverage technologies to really, like I said, get my front facing folks out in the front, not in the back doing the operational work.
So how would you do that? What does that org chart look like? What does that business model like? How would you build that company knowing what you know about technology and like the near future? What does the team look like? And what's it doing?
Interesting. Never thought about this here. So ideally, so knowing what I know now within Vendoroo, right?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
whole back end completely automated here, right? Really, the thing with having humans as our customers, the renters and the owners, right, as a property manager, is that they're humans. So you can't possibly think of every single situation and train your AI for every single thing. There's going to be escalations here, right? Obviously here, I don't know how much further in the future this will change, but this is kind of like this current state of stuff that where we can get an AI smart enough, but then there's going to be points where things has to get escalated to an actual human being. But regardless, I would say let's say everything 90% is completely handled here. If I were to do that, I mean, honestly, this is between me, maybe and two or three other, maybe two property managers, but
Yeah.
it could handle. I don't know. Like I said, my goal was to get 100. My property manager can handle 100 doors up to 300. Now this could
Mhm.
easily go to maybe five, six, seven, heck, maybe even 1,000 doors per property manager. So if let's say we're happy with 2,000 doors, have two property managers, done with it. So,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's the opposite of, so again, the Amazon thing, right? Like somebody's gonna win and like knock everybody else. Goodbye Toys R Us, goodbye Kmart, goodbye everybody. It's just us and Walmart. But there's also the one person $1 million e-commerce business, right? So that's the ground up version, right? That's what you're describing. This idea of like three people managing 1,000 doors in one market and being able to provide rock solid customer service because you're out there in the community, like doing the thing while everything else is happening.
And you know your market best. So when a customer calls in, hey, how much do you think this house is worth? You know exactly that there's a highway being built in about 2 years from now or something. This is something that you can provide that service that the big guys can't. So
Yeah, yeah. You know that this is the rent that you can get right now, not what Zillow is saying, right? Like not, like whatever. You know that maybe there's like a trail-oriented development thing happen where they're building a linear park and there's going to be a brewery, right? Like those kinds of things, right? It's like that extreme local knowledge. To me, the other big piece of it is like I feel like the industry overcorrects. Like I think in a search to be seen as valuable people, property managers are like now talking about like, well, talk NOI, right? Like talk about the NOI that you can create in this property. And I think that that's a really good conversation to be fluent in. But the moment that like multiple property managers are talking to NOI, like one property manager is not going to like have life-changing NOI over another property manager, right? So like what was it going to be? Oh, I can make you an extra 25, $50 a month, right? But like to me the only reason why I would leave a property management company, which I have, is because something is happening and I feel like they're not paying enough attention to it. And my wife and I are sitting there for 3 months stewing on why is this happening? Why aren't they paying me more attention to right now? I call it the KTA KPI, right? Like the kitchen table argument KPI. And I feel like if the property manager builds a staff that's like, okay, all this stuff is automated. You have one person that's like, when something bad is happening, they're just really on top of it. They're like the like they're just like really trained in conflict de-escalation and like being super soothing to just really be out in front anytime that something nasty is happening. They know, and they're just like really, really good. They're like the therapist on staff,
uh,
right?
often call my property manager's therapist. Yeah, so absolutely.
Correct, but really trained in that, like really, really, really trained in kind of like, difficult conversations and stuff like that. Another person that's out there as like the community person that knows, like you know three people in every room in your city, so like the behind the scenes of what's coming and all these kinds of things, and you're able to connect. And then there's like the person that's like business developing, right? Like
Yeah, let's build one.
let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Michael, what are you seeing right now? What are you seeing right now inside what, like, you're a product guy. Like you've looked behind the scenes. You said that you're like impressed with like what's actually happening right now. Like what is something that is more advanced than you thought? What's something that's less advanced than you thought based on like what technology is able to do right now that you've taken a peek under the casket here?
The voice, what do we call her? Lisa? Someone at our sales
Yeah,
demo?
let's call her receptionist because I feel like Lisa
Okay.
is gonna
I-
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
Appfolio calls there's Lisa, I calls this
Oh, okay, okay. So,
yeah,
yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed with receptionist, especially during the sales demo here, and we're not ashamed to actually let the customer go at it, right? We'll
call
actually
her.
invite the receptionist to the Zoom meetings and
Yeah.
say, go ahead, talk. We're that confident, and I was blown away, and not only me, but the way she responds has empathy. The
Hmm.
way the tone is very much human, right? And it will actually empathize with the other side of the for the tenant. And this is to your point, being a therapist. We have to emphasize, especially if they're going through like a pipe burst. They're stressed, they're agitated here. You just don't want to sound like a robot here, but it's the tone of, and she'll also say, "I'm sorry to hear that." She'll apologize, right? Like I said, being very empathetic, and just how that just sounds so human. It just impressed me. And in fact, you get that a lot from the sales calls here. Had
Yeah.
you not told me it was AI, I would not have known that this was AI. And they're like, wow. And you see the faces just jaw drop here. You can actually see kind of the user journey going from kind of skepticism, then we show the actual product, the wow factor here. And that's what shocked me, how advanced we've gotten to get it so human like. And to your point, maybe scary. But yeah, I mean, and the point, what's even so much, I don't want to keep on using the word scary, but this person, this our agents know much more about the company or your portfolio than probably all your employees, because it has access back to my point about data, all the
Yeah.
data. So not just one portion, one portfolio. Humans forget too, right? It knew back 2, 3, 4, 5 work orders ago they did this. So when now a new work order comes, maybe it's related to that versus a property manager who probably maybe will churn out and a new property has no context then, right? So this is another thing. Our agents don't ever quit unless you stop it, right? So it has historical context and relevant context here. But yeah, I mean that's I guess to answer your question about what shocked me most is that how far we've gotten to have it very human-like.
You know what, right when you said that, I was like, oh, wait a minute. We just said that what you need is the human to be the therapist. And then I'm like immediately reminded of how many of my friends and how much you're hearing this idea that people are using ChatGPT as a therapist and they're using Claude as a therapist.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe
Like,
you ever use the talk, right? The voice one, right? Uh,
yeah, well, the voice one, whatever, right? Like
yeah.
like I know multiple people that are just like
Right.
to say everything to ChatGPT. One of the same guy that was giving me the same concern was like, dude, I was in a fight. Like there's somebody in the industry that I get into these like online kind of like debates with, and I used to get this like validation for it, but I started feeling bad about it. I put in the feed of everything that we've talked about, and it basically just said that this person it's is like a narcissist that using this technique on me and blah 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 blah. And like
Huh.
it's people are really using it for therapy. Like that's a real data point.
My
That's happening.
sister-in-law, yeah, my sister-in-law, she had a male voice for ChatGPT. She configured it and constantly talks to her. She jokes around. She talks to the AI bot more, ChatGPT more because he's so much more empathetic than her current boyfriend.
Yeah, it's a weird future, man. So, well, let me ask you this then. Because I literally just got off an AI summit where somebody was saying the AI voice is just a trick, right? Like it's just a magic trick. We don't believe in that. We think that it should just be able to accomplish a task. I think what you're saying is completely different. That like people do appreciate empathy in an AI, and no matter if you know it's AI or not, like it really does kind of like move the needle for what you're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah, and the interface that we're dealing with are humans, right? And so it just basically it builds this trust, and that's really what we're after here, right? I mean, a lot of people are afraid of AI here, and if it's robotic, non-relatable, your trust goes out the door, and without trust, it
Yeah.
won't move the needle.
Yeah, trust goes out the door. To me on a even more fundamental level, I feel like reciprocity goes out the door. Like the moment I know that I'm talking to a robot, I'm like, give me what I want or I hate you. Right? Like if you think
Yeah,
you're talking to a human, like there's much more like, oh, okay, cool, cool, cool. Let's try to figure it out and let's not be mean. And I feel like property managers already get enough of this like being treated without empathy, right?
yeah. And you'll see this in the conversations too. I mean, not only in our voice, but our text as well, right? Empathy is shown through here with the use of, with the emojis now. It was crazy to see AI use emojis to express emotion here, which not necessarily shocked me, but it was delightful to say the least.
Yeah, man, it's really interesting. I think that's nobody else. I feel like there's two things that people aren't saying. Like one is the idea, like I don't think anybody in our industry is being bold enough to say that this is really actually going to replace jobs. And like it's not like what anybody wants, but I feel like, and yes, at the end of the day, the way you say it is it's going to elevate your people, right? Like we don't say like fire your people and hire Vendoroo. We say it's your last maintenance hire, right? Like you can hire this, you can just elevate your people, you're not going to be held hostage by a human again. But folks are kind of like staying away from that piece. And then nobody's talking about the idea that like AI can actually display empathy and make you feel a certain way, and people will feel that way about it instead of just dismissing this idea that like, it's got to just be like, oh, get it done for you or not. Like what you bring up about empathy is something that I don't feel anybody talking about,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like I think people are really just concerned on does it get the job done? And at the same time they say that property management is a people industry, they're not putting together the idea that you can actually get AI to get the job done in a way that feels like a person treating you better than most people will treat you, like you just talked about your sister or whoever it is that has like an AI boyfriend.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, an elephant in the room about it replacing jobs. No one mentions this. Tend to take a different approach here. When I owned the company, I never thought about replacing somebody with technology. It was all about not trying to not how can I grow without hiring another person, meaning keep my staff, but yet allow me to grow. right? And not only that, but my employees will benefit too through bonuses, through what have you here. I share the wealth, right? And everyone takes the glasses half empty here and thinking that AI is going to be no. It's and you hear a lot of industry experts is AI aren't going to replace jobs. It's going to replace those who don't leverage AI, right? And I firmly believe that as well, right? I mean, for now and the foreseeable future, it will always be need a human be involved in this loop, right? Because we deal with humans. That is we provide the utmost basic needs to people, which is housing, right? And so we do need that human element in there, and we can't replace that part of it. As much as empathetic as it can be, it doesn't replace humans, right? It cannot.
Totally, man. Totally. Anything else, man? Anything else come top of mind that we haven't talked about that you think is relevant in this whole conversation?
No, no, I think I just, back to your point here. It's just I want to sit on top of a mountain or stand on top of a mountain and just scream that this is coming. This is coming here. Just and all my friends in the property management. Still have friends in the property management who are owners as well. I'll be talking to them soon after after what I've seen here at Vendoroo here. But
What are
no,
you going to tell them? What's the message?
get off your butts and start implementing. Doesn't have to be us, but I mean, at least start investigating. We're far ahead, so we're definitely the leader here. But start leveraging AI in your process systems. It doesn't have to be a bot for now, but let your property managers leverage ChatGPT to check lease agreements, what have you. Do the mundane here. You already have systems in place. Throw a simple bot in there. I don't if you don't have the tech expertise, get the expertise, right? Or get a contractor to help you out understand this. If you don't understand it, like I said, get help. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind. You're going to be left behind, and you don't want to be holding the bag. So,
Yep. Well said, my friend. Michael, this is I'm pumped to have you on board, man. I feel like the perspective that you bring, like the lived experience is very, very unique that you have, right? Like of having done this, having been through, like having bought one, having bought another one, having been bought, having seen inside like the belly of the beast, and also being a product guy. Man, like this is like the ideal kind of like teammate that I think we can all use, man. I'm really pumped about where we're gonna take us. Appreciate it.
I'm excited. I think I have a great partner as well. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Good stuff.